Sometimes before we report on data, we need to transform it. Here is some made-up data for an election in Scotland where we look at yes or no votes across two cities and broken down within each city across two age groups. The first question is, if we're going to analyze this data in Excel pivot tables or Tableau, for example, how do we need to structure the columns of information in order to be able to best use the capabilities of pivot tables or a reporting tool like Tableau? This takes a little bit of practice and some trial and error. I'd like to suggest that you pause the video and bring up Excel and create a worksheet with columns and rows that you think will best represent the information for downstream reporting analysis. After you've done it, press play and we'll look at my solution. So here we have a column for city, a column for age, a column for votes types, and a column for number of votes. So we've taken the numerical data and put it all into a single column, or in statistical terms, a variable. And each row, or in statistical terms, an observation, represents the total number of yes or no votes for one age group for one city. And we call this the grain of the data. So if we want to look at this data in an Excel pivot table, for example, we can select the data or click within the data and click Insert. And now we could either click Recommended Pivot Tables or here just Pivot Table. And I'll click OK to put it on a new worksheet. And what I want to do is put the measure, the numeric value, which is here number of votes, down to here as sum of values. And then I can use any combination of city, age, and vote type across the rows axis, the columns axis, and the filter. So right now we can see the total number of votes is 973,600. If we want to look at it by votes types, we could put these on the rows, and we can see that the no's were 500,000, the yeses were 472,000. Or we could put them on the columns and look at it that way. This feels a little more standard to me. But we could, instead of putting the vote types here, I'm just going to drag the vote types off and look at cities on rows, or I could look at cities by vote type on columns, or I could drag vote types under city and look at a breakdown by votes under city, or I could put city under vote type and look at a breakdown the other way. I could add age to either rows or columns, or I might choose to create a filter on age. And notice now up at the top, age is all, and I can say, just show me the 16 to 24-year-olds or the 25 plus, or select multiple items, which here wouldn't make much sense because there's only two. So by starting with well laid out data, we can put it into a pivot table and deliver a lot of different choices to our user. An alternative is to take our data and in Excel, for example, and now we'll say File, Save As, and I'll put it into my C data folder and I'll call it Scottish Voting as a Save As type CSV. And I already have it there, so I'll replace it. And it warns me about multiple types. I'll say OK. It warns me, do I want to keep in that format? I'll say yes. And it takes that default sheet. Tableau also allows you to pull the data directly from Excel, but there's a number of benefits, especially when we're starting out, to start with a CSV file. So now I'm going to open up Tableau, and I'll say, it says connect to data, and I can say in a file, I'll say text file, and I'll pick Scottish voting from my data folder. It's important to remember where you saved your CSV. And now I say go to worksheet. And the interface is not that different than Excel conceptually. It's a lot richer, but it's the same basic ideas. So here, again, I'll take my measure number of votes and I'll put it under rows. There's not a separate place for measures here. And I'll put the city under rows as well. And I can put age on columns. I can create a filter on vote type as before. And I can also say use all or custom value list. And it gives me a lot of choices. Additionally, I can go to the Show Me menu and look at the same data horizontally or in other types of charts that might make sense. So here's the total votes broken down by age group. And again, we can play with it and look at it in different ways. We can drag age over to label, and now we can see it inside the label as well. So in both cases, we have taken a small amount of data and created the ability to do interactive reporting and to be able to automatically do aggregations of the numeric values. Here, just the number of votes. And it allows you to look at the number of votes across any combination of aggregates of any of the three dimensions, age, city, and vote types. Later, we'll look at more complex hierarchies of dimensions, which gives you even richer reporting capability.